I would like to talk a little bit about mindset and the power of your own beliefs. Often we get caught in a cycle of talking ourselves either out of something or into something, depending on the nature of what that something is. It could be back into an addiction or out of an addiction. So, mindset matters. If we think about the idea of our story, even though it's private, and no one else can hear it, it doesn't mean it's not doing anything. Thoughts have energy, thoughts have power. And when we think about things in a productive, positive, uplifting way, it can affect then our behaviour, what comes next. And then, of course, it can affect the emotional outcome of our behaviours. It also compounds then a shift in your belief pattern. So just because you've done something for a certain amount of years a certain way does not mean that you can't change the way you do something. And I think that's really important to understand the nature of our dynamic mind and how it is constantly changing and moving all the time. We Every time we have a new idea or inspirational thought, we go into a process of growing it in our mind first, imagining what that might be like. And that gives energy to it. So, where attention goes, energy flows. So, as a hypnotherapist, I help my clients shift the story, shift the belief, and therefore shift the behavior patterns that they're going through. Now, when I say assist them, they're the ones doing the work at the end of the day. But as a hypnotherapist, the power of suggesting a person to think about something in a certain new way, can be a real life changer for them. So even if we introduce the idea of putting things in past tense, so I had been, I was, I used to, now I am starting to, choosing to, beginning to, getting better and better at, you are in charge of what you want to put in the past and what you want to bring into the future. So, with that in mind, thinking about the idea of our mindset and the story that we have, um, your story that you hold right now is the most upgraded version of you so far. So, if you have a story that isn't working for you, let's say a story belief about your ability to either do something or not to do something, and it's been holding you back, then as soon as you're aware consciously that you're holding maybe a negative story of belief, is your opportunity to start to challenge it, to start to go, okay, well, if I wasn't thinking that, if I wasn't believing that, what would I like to believe? What would I like to think instead? What's the opposite of that? So many times when I'm working with clients, I'm working through that brainstorm moment of, if it wasn't like that, how would you like it to be? What is your most upgraded version of you, your most empowered version of you doing that's different to what you had been doing? And what would it take for you to get there? So I get people to really think about that mastery of stepping stones. We don't just land at a new destination point without a journey. Okay, so the journey of self belief starts one step at a time. So there may be 10 or 20 steps before you actually achieve the ultimate goal. But understanding that there are steps and then taking that first step can feel really, really intimidating for a lot of people, because change feels unsafe to a certain part of your body because it's not familiar yet. So when we're thinking about the addiction cycle, quite often the idea of even contemplating change or getting out of that addiction cycle can feel really intimidating or stressful for many people. However, we know long term, once they're out of that addiction cycle, they feel much better. But while you're in the addiction cycle, it's not the mindset that's winning. So mindset matters. We need to imagine it being easy. We need to imagine it being better. We need to imagine it being something that we can achieve. So as we start to plant seeds of intention, of change, and we start to give it a little bit of time, then eventually that change catches to action. It moves from just contemplation to action. And that's a big part around that change cycle. So as a hypnotherapist, what I'm there to do is help people really build on that intention and help them to point their mind and work on that muscle of intention within their imagination. Some people aren't very good at imagining things in their mind, and that's okay. However, to invite the idea that change can happen and to think, yeah, what are the words that I might need to start to say to myself that's going to enable change to happen? It could be, yeah, I'm going to often and frequently say, change comes easily to me. Change comes easily to me. Change comes easily to me. I enjoy and embrace change. I enjoy and embrace change. I enjoy and embrace change. So we can come across maybe new language that we might want to reinforce, and we can start to suggest that to reinforce those words, because words have power. They help you to build a new bridge of reality and disconnect the old bridge, to let it go. Bridges of belief, they're not as solid as we might think they are. So we can reinvent ourselves anytime. As soon as we're done doing life a certain way, we can change it up. We have free will. But often people don't exercise that free will in quite the way that they could. So again, as a hypnotherapist, I support people in exercising their own free will. So it's not about me as a hypnotherapist saying, from now on you are, and that's more authoritarian styled language, where a client might believe that I'm going to make them change, or they're going to go to sleep and wake up and it's all been fixed. Doesn't happen like that. They need to contribute to that change. They need to contribute to it and agree on it on a deeper subconscious level. So my journey is a bit like a dream walker. I'm walking through a process with them where they're engaging new ideas that make sense to them. They may need a conversation of letting go of that old way or that old lifestyle. So they may need to say that out loud into the room, or say it in their mind, whatever makes sense to them. So as a therapist, I'm always of the belief that I don't have the answer for the client. The client holds the answer for themselves. The client ultimately is in charge of that. And I'm there to facilitate and hold space safely while the client joins their own dots. So that's a big part of my practice and my belief system around helping people. We're often more powerful than we realize or recognize or acknowledge. And my duty as a hypnotherapist is to help people reignite their own inner power, to get in touch with that part of them that I call the inner genius, that part of them that knows who they are and what they need to be amazing. I was talking with a client earlier today about, does that spark joy in you? And I think those kind of moments where you get to question, is what I'm doing in this moment in time sparking joy? Is it making sense to me and helping me to be my best version of me? And if the answer is no, then I guess the next brave question is, what am I prepared to do to change that? To be able to align myself with a journey that sparks joy. And that can often be quite big, quite a big shift. Sometimes, though, it can also be just a small shift that changes a lot of things. Whether it's an addiction cycle or a mindset that's just been getting in the way. Often addiction cycles are around the mindset. Why have I got this addiction going? Whether it's gambling or drinking or drugs or other forms of addiction. You've got to ask yourself, moving forward, if I were to change that addiction cycle and let that go, how do I want my life to be? How do I want to spark joy in my life every day? And quite often addictions can be filling a void. So there's something that a person is medicating, like medicating their emotional depression or their stress or anxiety over something. Or maybe it's loneliness. It could be a number of different reasons why people medicate themselves. When we think about life beyond that addiction cycle, how am I going to, as a human being, support myself in a healthy way? These are questions I often ask my clients. And if you're in that position out there and listening to this, I invite you to sort of do a bit of a brainstorm. Is there something in my life that I'm prepared to change? And if I was to change that, what would it be? And how would I like things to be in the future? What would spark joy in me every day as I wake up and go into my brand new day? What are the things that are important to me in line with my values? Maybe it is more creativity in your life. Maybe it is more friendships and connections of meaning. It could be feeling fitter and healthier. It could be learning something that you've always wanted to learn but never had the time or the resources, and now it's time. So there are a number of things that every single human being goes through where they might get into a moment in their life when they're feeling stressed and depressed or stuck with something, and it's time to do an audit and an edit. So to look at what are those areas of my life that I'm done doing, that I'm really wanting to shed. So again, as a hypnotherapist, I help coach people through that process and get them to brainstorm. And quite often that brainstorming is done just as conversational hypnosis, if you like. Because when someone is focused for a period of time, they naturally go into a light trance. So even talking back and forward about ideas and thoughts about how that might be, even before what we call formal hypnosis, a lot of change can be happening at that point. However, I always like to do a more formal hypnotic journey with my clients where we bring it all together. We can help them sort of really clarify and commit to whatever those changes and shifts are going to be for them. I had this moment where I was guiding a lady through letting go of her addiction to gambling, the pokies. And I invited her to imagine just standing at the top of a flight of steps. And as I was going to count down from 10 down to 1, just imagine that they're anti-gravity steps. And as you step down, with each step that you take, you get lighter and lighter. And by the time I count to 1, you're feeling as light as air itself. But at the bottom of the steps is a very, very magical and healing place. A place that is filled with light and love and wisdom. A place that is almost like an emotional cleansing space where whatever no longer serves you can just be washed away, melted away. And as you immerse yourself back into the world, you go back into the world feeling lighter and free and ready to take action on those things that are important to you. Now, the art of suggestion and journeying a client through is what it's about. And the client then chooses to imagine whatever that is that they're shedding, whatever that is, and how that's going to feel for them. And at the end of the session, she said, "Oh, I just feel more energized and light. And I'm really, looking forward to this." So there are things that you see as a hypnotherapist after you've guided someone through a hypnotic journey with them that really says, yes, some deeper change has happened during this process. Now, to an outsider looking at that or listening to a hypnotic journey, they might go, it doesn't seem very big or interesting. But to the actual client going through the experience themselves, it's life-changing often. And for the good, for the better. Because we're doing this as a therapy. We're doing this to help that client step into their power and live happily ever after, if you like. Now, if you're interested in having a session I do offer Zoom sessions, so no matter where you are in the world, I'm available. If you are wanting to learn more about becoming a clinical hypnotherapist, I also can do that. I offer teaching to those that want to go through a full diploma of clinical hypnotherapy. It is online, so it's really accessible. And if you want to know more about that, you can visit the school website nzach.ac.nz. That's nzach.ac.nz. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out. Happy for people to comment. I'm always interested in knowing where people are at. Are you curious about learning about hypnotherapy, or are you curious about having hypnotherapy? And if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer those questions. So thank you for tuning in to this talk time today. I hope that was informative and interesting for you out there, and see you in another week. Thank you. Bye.